GM, Adam, we finally figured out these technical difficulties. Who would have thought all I needed was a new dongle? Oh my God, don't buy the cheap dongle from from Amazon. Go spend $20 on a dongle and all of your problems are solved. Adam,
solved, bro, solved.
GM, how is the Satoshi Roundtable going for you?
Oh, it's going great, man. It's really incredible to like just be around all these like innovators like crazy. I can't mention names because that's part of the deal, but I swear to God, Satoshi himself is right here, man. It's freaking amazing. Like literally.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a private event. I believe it's like only 300 people or something is allowed into that. I'm glad you're showing some good faith in the historical NFT community. Maybe tell some of them to buy our bags so that.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. For real. Like nobody knows. Like nobody knows still. Seriously. I mean, we joke about it, but literally nobody knows. Maybe 5%. I've run into literally like 5 guys who've been like, "Oh yeah, historic. Well, what?" And then, I mean, I talked to one guy who bought a punk during the 21 bull run and spent a lot of money on his punk. And up until last night, he didn't know that it wasn't the first NFT ever. Legit.
Oh man, we're early.
Legit. And it was a significant purchase. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to tell price, but let's just say it wasn't a floor punk.
Man, dude, that's pretty tough. All right, let's say GM Fico, how's it going? You guys can hear us? How's it going?
Yo, GM, yeah, going well, man. I actually just flew back to Australia yesterday, so yeah, jet lagged, but doing good. Excited for the conversation today, and yeah, glad you're enjoying Dubai, Adam. I've gotten used to the colder weather. I'm usually based in Scotland. I've gotten used to the colder weather. Now I'm in Australia. It's like 36 degrees and 90% humidity. So I'm struggling a little bit, but doing good.
Hey, love to hear it. Love to have you here. Leonidas, good morning. Fresh off of his citation on the Proof daily update.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, GM guys, I'm pumped to come back for this 3rd episode here. I'm glad the audio is working. Excited for it.
Hey, we're here. And Ethord, good morning. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. It's so cool too how multinational global we are right now with Dubai, Australia, and the United States and everywhere. That's awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. I just recorded with somebody right before this. That's all the way across the world. I just recorded with a Spells of Genesis artist for the next episode. I had to wake up super early for all of these. Our community is completely distributed. I wanted to begin with something that's just a complete hot topic that we'd covered last time, which is these open editions, man. Is this a trend? Is this not a trend? As I opened up, and I'm going to pull it here up on the live stream, that if you look in the top 10 right now for OpenSea, it's literally all open editions and Yuga Labs. So I think the captains had just made it into the top 10, but you look, it's Chex, CryptoPunk, Sewer Pass, OPN editions, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Merge VV. Captain just made it in as the non. You have the Trump digital cards, other deeds, proceed with caution. I don't know if this is going away, man. To me, it seems like a much larger trend. Adam, what are your thoughts on this? We talked about this a little bit in the green room right beforehand. You weren't even really aware of this, maybe because you're down hanging out with the rich fellas down there, people buying the first ever NFT. What are your thoughts on this at the first glance?
My thoughts are just copycats, man. People just go where the money is, right? And if they see it working, they jump in. It's just and crypto and NFTs. This is the space where you can copy something so quickly, and when it works, and this is obviously working right now, you just see infinite copies, right? This is just what we've seen. It's just amazing how quickly new projects can get spun up. The checks.
Yeah, this one just sold last night, all-time high, 13.5 ETH for this one. There are some unique burning mechanics that are embedded into this. Jack Butcher's been pretty good at getting to his community. I think like there's a rarity where only 3 black checks can be burnt, or that you can get out of like, I don't know, millions of possibilities or something like that. It's getting really, really crazy. Anybody on stage, have you dabbled into any of the open editions, or you got any thoughts on if this might be a meta, a trend, or just a bunch of derivative projects that are going to zero?
Yeah, go ahead, Leonidas.
Matt, go for it. I want to hear what you say. I want to hear what you have to say.
I was gonna say, I agree with you. I agree with you, Jake. I think it is a matter, like we discussed last week, this notion of memes, and if we look at, I remember we were talking last year around ENS, and when those ENS clubs took off, and I remember you made a really astute point around how these kind of trends happen in waves, right? If we think about Namecoin and what happened there with Namecoin identities, and then you kind of had Lineage, and then you kind of had ENS, right? Different waves across different blockchains. Same thing happening right now with the memes. I think they're not going away anytime soon. I do think the meta though is those kind of the RC 1155s. I think that's actually that kind of model of people being able to earn multiple NFTs, similar sort of a similar NFT, but it's like multiple of the same. I think that's a really interesting trend. I don't see that going away anytime soon either. This conceptualization or our understanding of what an NFT is, people thinking initially, the ERC 721 was like the go-to model. I think more and more increasingly, we're going to see a shift towards these kind of ERC 1155s, like the kind of open editions, multiple people being able to earn multiple of the same kind of NFT. But to Adam's point, it's shocking to me how much capital there is still swirling around this system right now. You've got checks. I think last time I looked, like 1.5 ETH. You've had the memes taken off as well, fake memes taken off. There's no shortage of cash around. It seems to me that it doesn't even feel like we're in the bear market in recent weeks. But I do think it's going to be an inevitable correction where a lot of these derivative projects won't hold up. But I do think some of them, memes, fake memes, there'll be some longevity there. As to what particular memes take hold and maintain value, that's an open-ended question. But definitely a meta, Jake.
Yeah.
Wait, are you calling Bull Run right now?
Bull Run, let's go.
I'm cautiously optimistic in the short term. I'm not sure, man, but there's too much money flowing around here, man, for me to be like.
There is a lot of money flowing around. It's true. Yep,
it is. We have seen the 6529 memes has pulled back about 50%. We have seen a handful of them, I believe. What's this other one? The checks is literally went from 0.2 to 1.4 in about a week. The OPEPE or OPEPE N edition is up astronomically. So we're starting to see some of the leaders that it was checks that was first, or I guess you could say the 6529's memes was first, and then checks and Trump, right? And then you had the second wave, which was like proceed with caution, and the OPEPE editions, and then a handful of them. To me, it really seems like this ERC 1155 is being completely propelled by these no code capabilities of Manifold. But I'd love for Leonidas to bring in some expert opinion on his thoughts as somebody who's an astute student of history and been able to pick up on a lot of these trends earlier. What are your thoughts about just open editions and ERC 1155s in general? Trend or meta?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we like to joke about new mints, I'll give them credit where credit is due, right? Like, these markets are not totally irrational. Even though we're all degens, there is some logic to Mr. Market. And Mr. Market is saying, with PFPs, like this was the example of 2021, right? PFPs were the big trend. that just totally blew up, right? So yeah, I mean, Bored Ape Yacht Club mints at 0.08 ETH, and then it goes on a run to about 160 ETH, so that's 2000x. So the market just looks at that, and the rational thing to do is mint a ton of PFP projects. Why? Because you're basically getting precedent that you get to try 2,000 times, and all you have to do is hit one, right? That is what you're being told. So for whatever reason, like that is the situation. Like Bored Ape Yacht Club was worth 160 ETH. So the rational thing to do was probably to mint a ton of PFP projects and hope you hit something like Bored Ape Yacht Club. That was the correct move at the time. And with all these tweets, I'm sure y'all have seen it in your timelines. The common tweet of the past like 2 days has been like, if you spent $50 minting checks, you would be a millionaire. Or these sorts of things. So what you're basically seeing is people are seeing that and thinking, okay, well, the rational thing to do is I'm going to just mint like all 500 of these open editions on Manifold because I only need to get one right. And that's what's happening here, basically. And most of it is crap, and it's not going to go anywhere, but that's the whole point. You get 499 blanks.
So here,
I'm wondering if Mitchell Chan was the one who kicked off this open edition thing. Mitchell had his open edition,
right?
And we were talking about, well, artists doing open edition, how's this going to work? And and just the idea of this open edition, and we've seen a couple of our other artists now do it as well. And it's interesting just to see how it's just completely taken off. Really, in the last month, it's amazing.
So here, let me add this then. And Las Vegas Gal said, "Bull run on the live stream." Yeah, we're set. We're really sending it. But I think personally that if you think this is just a short narrative and not just a larger trend, you're really kind of shorting on Manifold's capabilities and the no code accessibility and this tooling that's beginning to pop up. I myself had began to dabble in it. I've really kind of been red pilled on this idea that this is completely fueled by the creators, where you're starting to see this narrative pop up on Twitter saying that the last NFT bull run was fueled by open editions on Nifty Gateway, which then flowed, pun intended, over to Top Shot, which then moved into PFPs and things like that. But there you have this kind of buffer period with Nifty Gateway where you have to basically submit your artwork, or you have to get approved. So there's probably like a week or two before that artwork hits the open market, where here you can literally just plug and play. And Manifold has really set it up. If you haven't gone through, they set it up really like an app store where you just click a few buttons, create the contract. And then in the app, they have things like the OpenSea registry. They have the burn mechanics, and you basically just do like an a la carte contract. And to me, it just seems like they're just going to continually keep building on this. The founder is completely intelligent. He's been in this space for a long time. I think recently they just announced that they're going to add a $1 fee per transaction instead of doing a percentage, because they haven't been charging anybody. I created my own meme completely free. I think this might be the start of a creator bull run more than ERC 1155 or anything of that nature. To me, I just think Manifold's going to be probably one of the largest companies in the NFT space, because they're basically becoming the Squarespace of smart contracts, where Squarespace is for also people like myself who don't know how to code. You could just create a website and you could just drag things in and plug it. This is kind of the same thing for a smart contract. And what we saw happen when we saw that happen and hit the internet, I think it was like mid 2010s, you started seeing all these different content creators and people being able to build their own websites. So this is it's kind of similar to what I see happening here.
Yeah, I think, and you're going to get, well, what happens when NFTs become universal and one button easy, right? And I mean, this is part of the value proposition of historical NFTs, right? This is what we all know is happening. And we see like the first instances of it really truly happening, right? Where you get this and it's at or near free. You can, I mean, when it's one button on your phone, like then we're there, right? And so you're seeing this creativity and value flowing to interest in creating new things, or the hot thing, or maybe it's an influencer or an artist right? That's where the attention flows, and that's where the money flows.
Speaking of attention, you know what has a lot of attention right now? Ordinals, Bitcoin NFT of a different freaking nature. For those that are on the video, I'm about to pull up Casey, who was the creator of it, that Leonidas and Adam had interviewed back in, I don't know, what was that,
September, man.
Something
Bro,
like that.
Can you say early or can you say early? We are fucking
Wait,
early.
Adam, are we early? Did you
No,
say we're
so early, ridiculously early.
Adam, take us through what's ordinals. I have it on the screen, but take us through that conversation, and has it played out exactly to what you thought?
It's definitely not played out exactly how we thought. I mean, when we were talking to Casey back in September, I don't know which one of us kind of found him and saw what he was doing, and we invited him on the show. But we were talking. If you re-listen to that Twitter Spaces we had with him, we were talking about the rarity within sats themselves, within Satoshis themselves, right? Which was an interesting perspective, right? The very first sat ever mined would be extremely valuable from a collector's perspective, right? And we talked about how you might think of different sats as particularly valuable depending on when they were issued or who held them or whatever. We went down that kind of rabbit hole. And we touched a little bit about being able to attach info to him, and here we are. I mean, it took him however many months to kind of build this. I call it semi-functioning thing, but it's certainly functioning. I couldn't get it working. I think I've said before. It took literally 2 weeks, but that was me trying to do Bitcoin Core on an old computer, and just to get that part working, you got to get the full Bitcoin node running. And then you download basically his wallet, which tracks the sats. All sats on the Bitcoin blockchain tracked. And basically his wallet is able to, down to the sat level, track sats and send sats at a 1-to-1 level. So he knows that sat A is going to go to the wallet and sat B is going to go to the miner on that kind of detailed level. And by doing that, his wallet and his system is able to say, okay, Adam's got this sat. I'm going to put my art on it and attach my art to it. And I want to send that sat to Jake in his ordinal wallet. And he's figured out the system to make that happen. It's amazing. Whether or not there's been some huge pushback from the Bitcoin community, but I know I think they hit the 1,000 minted, ordinals in the last day or two. Big adoption, definitely a lot of adoption from the Bitcoin community, the Rare Pepe community. A lot of old Rare Pepe OGs were in there minting and, claiming firsts of this and that. So it's been awesome.
Absolutely triggering the Bitcoin maxis. We saw some like Luke Dash and some of the other extreme Bitcoin maxis trying to even censor them, which is going completely the other direction of what their precious Bitcoin is for. Right off of the website, it says, "What is ordinal theory? Ordinal theory is a protocol for assigning serial numbers to Satoshis, the smallest subdivision of a Bitcoin, and tracking those Satoshis as they are spent by transactions." I'm interested to hear from Dogfather on this as our counterparty and Doge Party expert, which is becoming one of the ordinals, is essentially another Bitcoin quote unquote NFT. Not really there. You call it proto NFT, but you can see the traction and progress. What's your thought on this? And what is the difference between this and counterparty?
Yeah, first I like the attempt to run everything on an old computer. I like the noise of doing that. It must have been quite fun.
Look, I'm telling you, man. When you hear the story of Hal Finney and how he mined, his first couple of blocks or whatever, and then he was like, and I turned it off because it was making my computer hot. That's what Bitcoin Core is today. It literally, my computer, I got the spinning wheel. I haven't got a spinning wheel on that. The computer's still good, but trying to run Bitcoin Core, man, I got the spinning wheel. Like, slow down, brother, slow down. Yeah, so it's legit. I might have to get a brand new computer just to run it because I do want to run it.
Yeah, I did that back a few years ago on work with quite an okay, computer we used as a server, and it was like, I mean, this was like a noise, like you take a rail and then just try to squeeze it. This was like the noise this computer was making. Never heard that in my whole life, something like that. So it's certainly a hurdle, and I think there will be many more people jumping on that train, just to try it out and to be early and to claim I did the first whatever. And I have to admit my week was pretty crazy and I was not able to do that, but I will certainly try that. And I think the beauty is, you don't need a counterparty as like a sub layer on Bitcoin. And now you can argue, and this is very subtle. I mean, since you also need a special wallet,
yep.
Is it now really like pure Bitcoin, or is it also something on top, like a layer? I think that's very fine semantics. But what you really have is like you put that on chain, Of course, the counterparty transactions are also kind of like on chain because there is no extra blockchain. There is no counterparty blockchain. So it's not like a second layer. It's more like a meta layer on top. So I think that the differences are very subtle, but people seem to see some edge in the minor details and jump on that. I mean, at the end, it's a trade-off, right? I mean, you can do basically the same thing with counterparty, and you don't have to run the full node. You can just, just pack something and encode it using counterparty, wallet and code for something like a link to Imgur in the easiest case, or have an IPFS hash. I think the differences are very subtle, and I don't know whether anyone outside of like a very narrow nerd circle will care about that. Yeah. But I mean, you will figure out maybe in 10 years someone will say like, "Wow, ordinals were the thing," and I think it's like always this FOMO. You always fear that you miss something if you don't jump on every train. So you rather be on it rather than just watch from the outside. And sure. I will certainly also try it out if I have time. Let's see.
Yeah, so the nerd circle is right, man. You absolutely hit that 100% right, man. It was like, it is a nerd circle. Like in that hop in the Ordinals Discord, it's nerd circle in there, man. You get people in there like, well, how do I do it? I don't know anything about tech and I don't know anything. And it's like, just forget it, man. Forget it. Like I know a lot about tech and I couldn't figure it out. So, yeah, it's definitely, it's nerds alert in there, man, for sure.
All right. Well, I got a question. I'm going to present this one to Ethord. I saw Joe Looney actually presented this, and it got me thinking, if ordinals do take off, is the first ever Satoshi the first NFT? Can it be the first non-fungible token? Technically, it has a serial number. It's existed for 14 years, 13 years now at this point. Now it has the ability to store some data inside. Could this be a contender for the first ever non-fungible asset?
There's definitely a point to be made there. I had some questions on my own that kind of go with that too. Does that mean that Bitcoin is no longer fungible? It's an NFT, place-based, right? And in my opinion, we all have loose definitions, I guess, really what an NFT is. As of now, we think of it as something that, visually stands out differently. I almost see this as a unique shell that could be filled. So I would say no. I could be absolutely wrong there. My other question, and I don't know if anyone knows this, has the Genesis SAT been moved? Is it still in Satoshi's wallet?
Yeah, no, it hasn't been moved. It's still in Satoshi's wallet. The first, those first SATs. Yep, never moved.
So the only way to move that, like, let's say he transferred a bunch of Bitcoin to Hal or someone else's wallet. The only way to really choose that SAT though would to be go through the super technical process of ordinals. Is that correct?
Yep. I mean, you could move it by accident, right? Just by sending SATs, right? You could move it by accident for sure.
A lot of technical nuance to it. I'm excited.
There's also one other technical. Sorry, Jake. There's also one technical thing that people should know is you could put multiple images or data on top of one sat. So the way Casey's thinking about it right now is what the wallet's going to do is display the first inscription, but the reality is there can be basically unlimited inscriptions on each sat, which actually I thought from a kind of collector's perspective is kind of cool. So imagine, I don't know, an artist does one, Mitchell Chan does a project, and his ordinals have his artwork as the first piece of art on that sat. Then collectors could add, hey, Adam had this sat before I sell it or give it to somebody else, right? And kind of create this like interesting, markings on top of the sats, and Casey said you could actually create something in eMay where it displays all the inscriptions on a sat. So you'd get to kind of see the history of the sat, which is really cool, I think.
Oh my God, it's layers and layers of nerdiness. I gotta absolutely love it. My favorite part was seeing the first data that was being stored in it was literally crypto dick butts, ether rocks, Pepe's, right? They're just taking complete meme warfare to clog the Bitcoin blockchain to kind of really stick it to those maxis who want to keep it pure, which they know they never can. The funniest part too, before we move on, was that I saw Casey saying that the reason that this can happen was through Taproot, which was like the most recent Bitcoin update. So the Bitcoiners kind of shot themselves in the foot to create this update. Gotta love it. Next thing I'm gonna move into again is Leonidas being quite famous with this thread that he put out, this impressive network of wallets. I got it here displayed on the YouTube stream, and I'll pin it up there in a second if someone can do that for me. Leonidas, take us through this post. Did you uncover this? What kind of investigative work did you have to do to put this together?
Yeah, so basically, if you've been in the V1 Discord for the past 2 weeks, there's a bot in the general channel, and it tells you anytime there's a sale or V1 gets wrapped, and it was just going it was going off. It was new wrap, new wrap, new wrap, new wrap. And everyone was like, what's going on? Because something there's literally been 500 V1s wrapped. It turns out it's this OG CryptoPunk claimer who has operated under various different pseudonyms over the past 5 years. Moneu, Seth S, Shaw, these are all terms that if you search them in the CryptoPunks Discord, you'll see people kind of say, oh yeah, this is a guy and he, he's pretty quiet. He doesn't have an account in the Discord. But yeah, people kind of whisper about him and stuff. But yeah, so basically he is consolidating roughly 11 wallets, which all have essentially a ton of grails, basically. I'm very jealous. Alien, CryptoPunks, literally the most epic NFT collection I've ever seen, right? So yeah, basically consolidating hundreds of V1s, hundreds of CryptoPunks, 16 autoglyphs, 100 some Mooncats, a bunch of OG historical NFTs into this single wallet. I'm assuming it's for a security upgrade. He popped into the V1 Discord to ask a question about wrapping, and I happened to be there right at the time and answered the question, and then asked him about was he doing this for security reasons, and he just kind of he was oh thanks, and didn't respond. But yeah, I'm assuming this is a dude who had a $500 million asset, $500 million worth of NFTs at peak market and at the peak of the 2021 market. So this is pretty heavy hitter, and obviously we're not at peak market right now. But yeah, this is a whale kind of coming out of the shadows a little bit, consolidating to this wallet, and yeah, impressive art box collection as well. Just an all around, very very heavy hitter, I would say.
Did he get the punks at Mint?
Sorry, should you say that one more time, Adam?
Did he get the punks at Mint? Were they Mint punks, or did he acquire them later?
Yeah. He minted the 600 V1s. Yep. Exactly.
Absolutely incredible. I pulled up right here. So he bought the alien with the beanie for 10 ETH. His actual most expensive purchase is a punk with green hair for 130 ETH. Is a handful of purchases of autoglyphs around 40 ETH to 20 ETH range. He's got like 3 apes right here that he bought for about 6 to 8 ETH. He's got some Bitgans from Van Arman. Maybe that's why Van Arman, I believe, had the top sale of the week. Bought a bunch of wrapped Mooncats in the original wrapper. Do you know, Leonidas, if he minted any of the Mooncats, or were they all purchased on secondary?
You know, I didn't dive into the Mooncats that heavily. That's a really good question. From what I could tell, a lot of this was, somebody got really lucky minting CryptoPunks, and then more recently has been diversifying into some other OGs.
I mean, there was only a handful of people who claimed a lot of these punks. You had Mr. 703 claimed 703. You had Hemba who claimed, I don't know, was it like 1,000 or something like that? Do you think this could be Mr. 703? Or do you think this is somebody different?
I believe, I think it's somebody different. But yeah, this is somebody who's definitely up there. And I think in the thread I mentioned, he's, I believe, the 4th largest CryptoPunk holder right now. And if he collected 3 more or 5 more or something, he would be the #1 individual holder. I believe so. Yeah, I don't know how many Mr. 703 is holding still. Maybe I didn't account for that wallet, but one of these like 5 just massive whales who's still kind of hanging on here, because most of them, right, have kind of sold, right? Like Hemba and many of these whales did end up kind of selling into the market, and there's a few still hanging in here. Like MB has a ton. There's some whales out there, and this is one of them.
Dude, absolute grail. Any other guys up here? You ever seen a collection this large? I mentioned yesterday that this is saving his family for 3 generations. Leonidas came in and said this is going to pay for an entire city. Oh my Jesus.
I mean, when you think about it, sorry, go ahead, man.
That collection is jaw-dropping, but it is fun looking through it and seeing some things kind of take me back. Do you guys remember Nifty Dudes? This was like an early March 2021 mint. But yeah, it was writing on the punk narrative, and they look so funny and silly. But they jumped up. They were worth maybe 5-10 ETH for a little bit, and then they've just completely died, I guess.
Oh my Jesus. I'm still scrolling. I've been scrolling this entire time you guys have talking.
It's all
I'm now into
all
the
high value NFTs. It's crazy, man.
It's crazy that I'm scrolling and everything I'm scrolling by is like worth 10 grand or more. Gotta absolutely love it. This will be a good pivot into the next section. Dogfather, you actually put out a great article, a thread, and I actually do want to say, dude, props to you, man. You've been putting out a ton of great content. I think you've been putting out like a thread a week about. I actually put a thread out recently, which is a thread of historical NFT threads, because the content that's now hitting the space is awesome to see. It was not like this last year. I think there was like about 20 or 30 different historical threads that I was able to bookmark just in January. But this one covers specifically Spells of Genesis. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts behind this, and then any other updates for Counterparty and Doge Party.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Jake. So I decided at beginning of the year to change a bit the strategy and to concentrate a bit on these data issues. I'm working on that IRL. I think then you have some edge. And I was also working for Doge Party for a while, so getting known to all the devs, and then it's easier to get the data. So I'm sitting on like 8 gigabytes of counterparty data, very crisp and fresh. And I wrote some code, and then I was just, trying to organize the JSON files. And if you have the JSON file for the projects, then basically you just need to change the code slightly, and then you have kind of all the results for the different projects. So I started with everything that Emblem Vault will soon, put into collections. So obviously with Rare Peppies. And then the next thing is obviously Spells of Genesis. And the interesting part was actually, even I was super surprised and how little market activity is there on the native markets. And also the low number of collectors. We already talked about that last week about the Rare Peppies. And so they can be so lucky that they have Emblem Vault as, you know, a mean to sell, in particular, these high value cards like the FD cards. Honestly, I was like almost falling down from my chair when I was seeing that there were only 13 FD cards sold via these dispensers, which is the main method to sell on Counterparty. I mean, 13
Amazing.
sales in the many weeks, in the many years. There have been some activity on this DEX where you can also have something like an exchange where you buy these FD cards for BTC or, you know, some other of their coins. or XCP. But I mean, recently, I think Emblem Vault was basically taking over most of the market activity besides OTC deals and auctions, obviously. So that was my key lesson learned, that in particular the high value cards are not really traded that much anymore on Counterparty.
Amazing.
The other interesting part was the most popular card on the native market. I'm just looking at, you know, native sales because I was interested in Counterparty activity, because in my point of view, it's super interesting. Before you move a collection on, you know, ERC 1155, it's important to understand what's going on the native chain. So this understanding, I think, is very important. So the most traded and most popular card was Sarutobi card. I think Leo will be happy to hear that as well. And I think also, you know, if you talk a lot about certain collections and certain cards, you know, people grab them, right? So there was a lot of attention for Sarutobi card. There were 103, so almost, you know, 8 or 9 times more sales than FD card, which is considered Grail. And obviously it's a bit cheaper and everything, so it's easier to grab it, but also Satoshi card were very popular. But there you have mostly fractional cards that people buy, you know, 0.0001 just to have it in the wallet. You know, I also did that once because I wanted to see it, and it was just a few bucks, so people do that. But there's really, even for these, what we consider in our little bubble, the real grails and the biggest collections and the most known collections, there's very little going on the native chains. I mean, that's really amazing. So 1.2 K sales in total via dispensers over all these cards. We have 250 cards almost. Right, so that's just a handful of sales via these dispensers, which is the most, you know, common method to sell them. That's nothing. I mean, that's nothing.
So I mean, is Emblem Vault basically the entire volume? Is this basically what's happening here?
I mean, it's a bit tedious right now to look into the Emblem Vault sales, but if I just recall how many, you know, Emblem Vault, you know, bought, how often that, you know, popped up with FD cards recently, I just have the feeling I would love to look at the data. That would be the next step, that a lot of the market activity was on OpenSea via Emblem Vault.
Gotcha.
And this will just be, and this will just
go.
go 10x if it's simpler to find those, and if you have everything aggregated and safer and more liquid. That will certainly change even more once these collections are out and well known and so on. I mean, that can only go up.
Adam, what are your thoughts on this? You SOG fan? I know actually most of the Grail sales that have been happening, at least in the beginning of January, has been those FD cards and the Satoshi cards. Actually, we've seen a pretty big uptick on historical brokers popping up. We saw Oliver, I think you had posted something about Kiro Card, 0G. There's a handful of people starting to get into this space. I think that just kind of goes along with what Dogfather is speaking on, is that nobody's using the native marketplace. So we got to figure out a way to get these shipped. What are your thoughts on all of it?
Yeah, I mean, just talking to people here, people don't want to leave where they're comfortable. It's just that simple. And the money's on ETH, and people don't want to spend the time to learn Counterparty, even though it's pretty easy, right? But it's easy, but also, you know, it's not necessarily safe. It's not safe in the way that buying something on OpenSea is relatively safe. right? I know if I click buy and I go through the process, either I'm going to get that NFT or it's not going to go through, right? There is that risk on Counterparty. If it's in a dispenser that I send my Bitcoin and somebody beats me to it and they get it and I don't, and I have to somehow magically get my money back from, from that person who held that NFT, and they have to be nice enough to give it back, right? And obviously that's not going to work when you're spending $100,000 on an NFT. Like, that just doesn't work, right? So, I know you can do it other ways, but again, it's a new thing to learn. Collectors just don't want to do that, right? Collectors, it has to be easy. And, that's why we love Emblem Vault, right? And so the numbers are surprising. This is really, actually, it's kind of eye-opening, because you'd figure there'd be a lot more activity from, Bitcoiners, longtime Counterparty users natively. But it just shows you that where the money is, you have to meet people where the money is and where the collectors are. And so, yeah, I'm psyched to be on the Emblem Vault team. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's why we do the things that we do. Mifiko, go ahead. I say you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to connect this conversation here to what you were mentioning before, Jake, around Manifold, and why I think Manifold is going to have it's going to play such an important role in the future. I mean, I said this last week around this, idea that blockchains are brands, and it's fascinating. We spend all of our time online, right, to engage in the NFT space. We spend our time in Discord and Twitter, but there's just this kind of feeling in when you're talking to people who collect NFTs on Ethereum, or you're speaking to collectors whose the majority of the collections are on Ethereum, compared to when you then are speaking to people who their collections are on Solana or another chain. It's just a different vibe. It's hard to describe. I still haven't found the words to actually to articulate exactly what it is, but it is certainly the point that you have to meet people where they're at. And when I think of Manifold, when I think about Emblem, when I think about these kinds of tools that make it easy for people to access NFTs on different chains, or they make it easy for people to create their own smart contracts. I mean, that's really the next leg up for us in terms of getting more people into our space. So I'm glad to see as well, Oliver and different people engaging in brokering. That's, I mean, it's my only, not even a gripe, but I do see often, and I'm sure Jake and Adam, you guys have talked about this team at Emblem, is that, oftentimes kind of see those sales going through X2Y2, which is a shame. But I mean, it's still good to see that those NFTs are changing hands, and they're getting into the hands of collectors who are, I can imagine, going to hold them for a long time.
Yeah, you're completely right. The brokering thing is definitely a discussion that we've had many times internally, and we're working on some tooling to kind of create that as a more frictionless process, and also a safer process as well. But we do have to get through the curated. Just as like kind of a napkin math numbers, I mean, over this bear market, Emblem's probably lost out on anywhere between 30 to 50% of profits from these X2Y2 portals, which is kind of been leveraged by the brokers, which everyone is entitled to, getting things going and stuff like that. We are a business, and so we're trying to figure out different tooling to get it done. As for the updates, we can move into Emblem since we have the team here.
Jake, really quick, can I just say something there? So this whole like X2Y2 brokerage thing, like this is all because it's an inefficient market, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, curated collections like on their own solve this problem. Like, who wants to go to brokers and pay the brokers fees and then go to X2Y2 and like negotiate this deal all over messaging? Obviously, this is not how the majority of NFT collections trade. If there's liquidity, like in a collection on OpenSea, like people will just list their asset and then people buy the floor. And like by far, this is how the majority of NFT sales happen. Mm-hmm. So to me, the problem just goes away when there's like a user experience where people are going to use it and there's that liquidity. Right now, it's just a very inefficient market. So these brokers have to come in and connect buyers and sellers because the complexity in between is too difficult for the buyers and sellers to navigate. So I think curated collection solves this on their own. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. The idea that you can literally just go pull up a rare Pepe, like the Nakamoto card, and just go throw a bid on it, with 5 to 10 of them being listed, is going to solve a lot of those issues as well. So for the updates of curated collections, we're actually much farther along now. The migration portal, which is basically taking your legacy vault and moving it into the curated collection with a click a button, is currently what's being tested at the moment. These things take a little bit of time because they are quite complex.
Tech is hard, bro. Tech is hard, bro.
Yeah, but here pretty shortly, within probably the next week or two, we're going to be reaching out to those who are interested in taking part in the soft launch, and helping either onboard these Pepes early, giving us feedback on the UI UX. The sorting feature is something we're still working through with the metadata. Getting that sidebar really cleaned up is going to be tough. We're actually probably going to have to make some sacrifices in some of the specific details. I think what might happen, I've been looking into, is you might have to label each card 1 through 1,774 and then have it by series. An issue I've come up with so far is that if you label it as the series and then the number, right, there's 35 series, but there's cards 1 through 50 on 35 series. And that's been an issue with the metadata. So we might have to do some manual work to number and label out all of these different cards. Also, Spells of Genesis might be coming to market around the same exact time as Rare Pepe. So make sure that you get your assets. Again, if you're interested in being an early participant in the soft launch, then you will just reach out to us or reply. We will be introducing some benefits and some offers to the soft launch people and to the main launch, some sort of gamification, some rebates. Right there as a gas cost. So we're still working through that, but that should be all coming up pretty soon. And then, as I mentioned, we do have some other tooling working on the back end. I don't know, Adam, did I miss anything? Take us through the top emblem sales of the week.
Do you have it listed up there, or do you have
it's the banner. I'm gonna share it right now on the screen. Just take us through the bottom.
You got
this up.
The one that was kind of an outlier was we had a pretty big puny code sale, which was interesting. I don't know who it was. I mean, I'm in the puny Discord, obviously, but that was kind of surprising to see a large puny sale like that. So it's a it's a 2011. In theory, is seems like a good deal. They've traded up to 32 ETH. But who knows? Somebody's got to get liquid. Somebody always has to get liquidity, right? And like Leo said, inefficient markets are the reasons why intermediaries are the big sales are going through intermediaries. When we get puny codes up on the curated collections, and they'll all be there on OpenSea, and people can put in bids and stuff, these things will just flow so much easier. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, it's Pepe's, man. People love the Pepe's. What can you say, man? People love the I'm so psyched to get Pepe's on OpenSea. Oh my God, dude. In like a proper format, this is going to be amazing. I have zero question. Like, it's a top 10 collection, like, all the time. It's going to be amazing.
Just the sheer amount of tokens, right? 1,774 different tokens, over 300 different artists, literally millions of assets when you start getting into some of the ones that are larger than 1,000 supply. The big thing, the big elephant in the room is getting that frictionless process of getting people to vault to those assets, and then the migration as well. Pepe Thur, which looks like Pepe Arthur, was 5 ETH, number one. Pepe Sakura, another 5 ETH. The puny codes 2011. I don't even know what that symbol is. What is that? Like a Greek symbol? It looks like a 6. I don't know what that is. but it sold for 4.7 ETH, and Dank Pepe 4.2. This Dank Pepe is always selling for 4.2 ETH.
Love that Dank Pepe.
Dank Pepe, man. Got the Pepe always has the dankest memes. with the cannabis in the back. I believe there was a fake rare sale, Pepe, or what's Package Claim, which is by Joe Peace. I was one of the famous NFT artists, and then the Boys Club rounds out, and Trout Pepe round out like the top 7. Pepes are going wild, dude. The fake memes are getting some traction. They're onboarding. I did notice, and I'll talk about this fake memes thing for a second before we move on. I did notice a little bit of the separation from the fake memes, from the fake rares and the rare Pepes. I don't know if some of the original members got triggered or what, trying to appropriate the culture, but there has been a little bit of separation. They got their own website, the fake, what is it, meme ASF master pass have been minted, 248 of them. The meme ASF tokens, I think there's about 2,300. So I did the math. You have to burn 3 of them.
Tell us more about, dive into this a little bit, because I'm interested and I don't know the details. So
yeah, here, I'm gonna try to pull up. I tweeted about this, I think yesterday. So you had to, here it is. Hold on, let me pull this up on the screen. You had to essentially mint, or you had to have these like 10 or 5 different series 0 cards, and it came out to about a 10,000 supply, I think, between all of them, or maybe 5,000 supply. I don't know what the specific number was, but here I have it pulled up. So the master pass, and then basically you had to get to claim these for free. So if you had all 5, you got to claim a master pass, which 6529 has a master pass, which I think that's going to be the ultimate character arc of 6529 minting his own fake meme in the collection. So the floor of that's about 2.2 ETH, 248 them claimed. You get a guaranteed mint on every fake meme drop. I'll go into the numbers on a second. The meme ASF card, and the art is pretty dank, I have to say. 2,327 meme ASFs. It's at a 0.1 ETH floor. The utility is that if you hold 1 meme ASF, you get on the allow list. If you burn 3 of them, you get to mint your own fake meme into the collection. So if you pull it down, I said that here's the specifics. So this memes, every fake meme drop, right? That's pretty good play on words right there. Good old dad joke. Every fake meme drop will be at least 248 supply, right? If every master pass gets guaranteed 1. Turns out that it's actually the minimum's 333. They'd put this before. So there's going to be a minimum of 333 per drop. If you divide it down by 3, it means there's only going to be 775 fake memes entered into the official collection, beginning with Series 1, which is going to all be on 1 contract. And then your master pass guarantees a mint for 775 fake memes. So I propose this question: will 775 fake memes reimburse your master pass purchase of 2.2 ETH currently? So it means I think every single one has to get you about 0.03 or something like that to get your money back. So this is kind of where it sits today. There isn't any further information on it yet, but they have their own website. It's called the Fake Meme Directory. It's taken mechanics from 6529's the memes, where in 6529's he has what's called a gradient, which is essentially the master pass. The floor of those are like 50 ETH, probably came down a little bit. And then they took the mechanics from fake rares, where in fake rares, you have to burn a fake ASF to mint into fake rares. The fake rare, or the fake ASF floor, is about 0.6 ETH. So to even get a fake rare right now minted in, you have to pay 0.6 ETH. So you can see this like deflationary mechanic being introduced. So fake memes, they really just took both projects, and they took a lot of the culture from rare Pepes and fake rares, and then it's combined with kind of the memers of the ETH community. And I do see some of the funk crossover starting to happen, because they're also like this very like kind of counterculture movement, and it's becoming this like really beautiful community that's happening. I don't know. It's at some points I get so lost, because it's like a re-meme of a meme of a meme of a meme. Like meme caption. Did I see how these people go crazy? It's absolutely just,
dude. It's memes all the way down, brother. It's memes all the way down, man.
Oh my boy. I don't know. I think this is going to be the number 2 meme collection. You have the legacy of rare Pepes and fake rares. You have the experience of all of them, right? You have a rare Skrilla. He's not leading it. But he's part of like, he's giving them advisement on how to do this. They've been through this now 3 times, right? It's going to be the 3rd time. You have the memers, you have some of the ETH people, you have Manifold, the accessibility. We'll see where it goes. If this meme trend continues, then obviously this is going to be one of the ERC 1155s to look out for. Where the value goes, I don't know. I'm along for the ride. I'm very excited. Mafiko's got his hands up with the memes. I know he's similar in the boat. Let's see, Mafiko, what you got?
Yeah, this is related but unrelated. Just hot off the press, Snoop Dogg is releasing an open edition music NFTs in 6 minutes.
Oh boy, dude! Everyone is getting an open edition, right? It's like when Oprah passed out those cars at the,
yeah,
and you get a meme, and you get a meme.
I can't believe this shit, but yeah, it's like he says open 72 hours, and it seems like it's a 2 minutes 19 second track. $8 each. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting now. See how we go.
Following the checks logic right there, with the $8 mint. The one thing that I think a lot of people are actually missing out is the cool part of open editions is that you can mint. You get to set a supply that's relative to your community's demand. Before with PFPs, you're kind of like boxed into this 10K PFP. We're doing these round numbers because that's a psychological number. Here you can set it. Like I'll use myself as an example, right? I minted 777 at 0.01 and it got bought. A lot of it got botted, right? So that just to me shows that there's a much larger demand than I had anticipated. So you can kind of play from there. Whereas if you have a smaller community, you can just do like a timed open edition. And from the amount of demand, you can gauge there to see how many people are interested in purchasing the tokens. Of course, there's going to be cash grabs and greediness that happens with everything in crypto when there's a trend. But that's like some of the mechanics that I'm looking for to see and invest in some of these projects.
If you saw what Nyan Cat did over the last 2 weeks, his had a really cool mechanic, which was it was an open edition, and I think over 20,000 people minted it. It was, your cat's flying up on a balloon, right? And then so people just minted it, and there was, I don't know, 20,000 some odd of them, which is a lot, right? But then he had a cool mechanic where each day you could trade it in and get a different colored balloon for a week. And the last day was whatever, the mystery balloon. And I think it ended up being a rainbow color or whatever, or all balloon colors or whatever it was. And, but he did really well. And I think doing that created this kind of like additional rarity, which people really obviously enjoy. And so rather than just the straight, unlimited mint, it was like he was able to create these kind of sub rarities, which is great from a collector's perspective, and collectability perspective, and kind of reward those people who minted. So that was pretty cool.
The burn mechanics, you can really dive in and start almost creating like your own PFP, right? You could say, hey, you burn this, you get this background. And then later you could say, if you have this background, you could burn it to get this trait. And it just like, it continually goes in. It's like the meme within the memes within the memes. Next segment is one of my favorites as a past antique store owner of physical collectibles. The Hoard Corner he's going to be discussing a topic that I collected when I was younger. I think a lot of millennials are very familiar with this physical collection. So ETH Hoard, take it away, sir.
Thank you. Yes. This is Hoarder of the Week, a segment that explores the world of physical collecting. Each week, we'll focus on a specific product, digging into its history, exploring what characteristics set certain items apart, and seeing what parallels we can draw between them and historical NFTs. So this week, we have the infamous Pogs. I'm going to start with some media. Usually when I'm researching, I'll look around and see if there's any documentaries on it and podcasts, whatever. So I recommend Stuff You Should Know is a great podcast all around. They did an episode on Pogs. There's not much media on this, but there's one called Milk Stop Crazy with a K, and it is just an homage to a 90s documentary. It's literally done on a VHS tape. It's got that extreme kind of weird vibe with, you know, skater fisheye lenses, and it's a product of its time for sure, and that's on YouTube. And then the last notation is there's one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons where Bart sells his soul to Milhouse for $5. Milhouse ends up selling it for a pack of Alf Pogs. Great episode.
Oh boy, I do have the a few of the links that you sent me pulled up on the video stream. I'm following along with you as you go through this, Ethord.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the origins of POG, and this is actually really fascinating. I didn't know the background of it, and it did kind of surprise and shock me how this all got started, and kind of how it almost came out of you would have never expected, like some of these early NFT projects that were just around a long time and then all of a sudden they exploded. It's kind of very similar to that. So Pogs, which is also known as the Milk Caps game, has actually been around since the 1920s, but it was really only played in Hawaii for the most part. There's several other types of this game that have been played for hundreds of years in Japan. I think even the Squid Game show on Netflix, which is fantastic, they play a kind of a similar version of Pogs as well. But this is called Milk Caps game, and it's because back in the day, milk actually came with these caps that looked just like those Pog discs, and they would use those milk caps to flip over other milk caps. Eventually, you know, the design of milk cartons made these things obsolete. But then some companies started to redistribute them for nostalgic promotional items. And so that includes the Halikala Dairy Company, who created this brand new delicious tasting juice called Passion Orange Guava, aka Pog. So that's right. Pogs actually got its name from the amazing drink. If you haven't tried it before, I highly recommend, which is Passion Orange Guava or Pog. But yeah, so that was in the 70s when they created that drink. And this school teacher collected a bunch of them. And one day in 1991, she brought a bunch of these Pog milk caps to her class, her 5th grade class, to play. And she taught them the game in hopes that it would teach them math skills. And the irony here is it got so popular that it actually got outlawed in a bunch of elementary schools because kids weren't doing anything except for playing Pogs during school. But yeah, so the kids loved it. It spread like wildfire. And by 1993, it had become a world sensation. So at that point, you know, anything and everything were licensing their IPs on Pogs. You've got Power Rangers and Beavis and Butthead to Michael Jordan and Marilyn Monroe. And so it's crazy how in just those 2 years, this game that's been around forever exploded, and then it became this giant moneymaker. And, you know, McDonald's would release theirs and Taco Bell would release theirs, and it'd come free with the purchase of a chalupa or whatever. Okay, one last thing about the origins too that I want to equate to NFT projects, and this may be a great one for Leo if you know. But when you played Pogs, right? I don't know, when I played it, you'd play it for keeps. Not everyone would do this, but I would, right? So it's like a form of gambling, and you would keep the ones that you would flip over. Are there any NFT projects that have done this? Does anyone know?
Yeah, actually, I was doing some research. Sorry, Leo, to cut you off. There was an NFT marketplace called, I don't know if it was Digital Objects or Rare Bits. They had this back of the canvas technology to where you can actually flip over the NFT and inscribe it with your name or your logo or some sort of message for the collector. That's the only one that I know of. Go ahead, Leo. Sorry to cut you off.
I was just gonna say I don't know. So
that's
it gets into that gray gambling area where, you know, legally, you know, people probably don't want to go there because you do. If you jump into that, as you know, Jake, being in Vegas, it's like you go down that road, it's all of a sudden you're behind bars, you know.
It's a dark, it's a dark, very dark, a dark territory to go down. Very scary. I have pulled up here too for those that are just listening. I have the video that Ethord sent me. It's a 1994 VHS documentary on Pogs. So I'm reliving my childhood as I was a young infant watching this.
Okay, now this was after my time. Did you get these things in like they'd come in like packs of 20 or something? Like is that how they came?
Yeah, it came in like almost like a canister, like a plastic canister, almost like a larger version of what you would wrap coins up and sell them, or when you get them from the bank. It came almost like that, but they were a little bit larger in plastic.
Yep. And obviously, so Ethord played like the keep 'em game. Jake, did you play that way, or it was like you got yours back? Like I know my kid plays with like Pokemon cards, right? But they don't they'll play the game, but you keep your cards. You don't lose your cards.
Yeah, no, I'm not losing my Pogs.
Yeah, imagine playing Magic the Gathering where you would get their cards if you beat them. That could be crazy.
So how did this how did it die off? What was the story behind the die off, or did it just slowly whimper away, the Pog collectabilities?
I mean, it just kind of got out of so it blew up so quickly that it just became a fad, and then people realized why are we all obsessed with these crazy little cardboard discs, I guess. Yeah. There's no real definitive answer. It just died. Just kind of like Beanie Babies or whatever, right? It just fizzled out. Usually when these things run so hot. But okay, so what makes certain ones valuable? And that's a great segue into that because Pogs were a fad. They did not retain much value. It's something to note when I talk about some of these prices of them. But again, I think it's about investigating and looking at what made these collections blow up and all of that. So some of the things that did make them valuable, right, were the popular brands and the full sets. So when I dive into a couple of those examples, you'll see it's generally sets and things that defined the era, right? And then the last thing too is there's the Pogs and then there's the slammers. So when you play the game, you'd use something called a slammer to flip the Pogs over, and those were generally much heavier metal or big thick plastic things. And those would generally sell for higher prices than the Pogs as well.
Wow. I can tell you what ended Pogs. You know what came a few years after that? Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards, man. Pokemon. That's where I went. I made the transition to Pokemon cards and said, screw these things. I'm out of here.
You think about why Pogs would go away and Pokemon doesn't, right? Pokemon creates story and narrative and just so much more connection with the characters and with everything than Pogs. From a collectability standpoint, you can see why Pokemon just keeps engaging new groups of collectors, right? Stories, TV shows, all that sort of stuff just creates more and more lore. It's like an ever-ending universe of lore, and that's why Pokemon just keeps going.
Ethor, tell us what are the top sale? What's the all-time top sale? I need to know who sold the top here. How much did they bag and dump on their followers?
Yeah, well, speaking of Pokemon, there was a Pokemon set that sold on eBay for $1,300. And looking at eBay now, I did find there's a set available for $1,500. So if anyone wants to throw one ETH, you can do that. And it's funny too, because we were talking about it, right? It's all about, well, what defined that generation and what will retain value. So Pokemon, it's part of the lore. If you are a huge Pokemon collector, you want everything, right? You want the original cards and you want the Pogs and you want everything. So that helps set value apart, I think, across the board. And then there's also like the OG Hulukala Dairy Pog, right? That has the kind of wild animal on it. So that's the OG card. It's cheap as hell. You can get it on eBay. I looked for like $2, but if I wanted any Pog, it would probably be this one. I'd spend $2 on it and know that, hey, this is kind of the thing that started it all.
What did they do as far as like numbers of that? Did they ever release like numbers of how many they made of each one? Or was it just kind of unlimited basically Did you find anything as far as the numbers go?
I found one number. I guess it was some Canadian company, and I'm estimating now because I'm not looking at it in front of me, but they were saying something like there were tens of millions of pogs that they were creating and sending like on a monthly basis. So, and that was early on. But yeah, there, as far as rarity, this is the one. There's no price for it, but the No Fear set. If you remember in the 90s, No Fear was a type of, I think, like skaterish brand. And and this is quite possibly the rarest set of pogs. Rumor is a couple of pogs were sent to one store in Texas and the rest were destroyed. So
man, buried in the desert like ET video games or something, right? It's like
absolutely. And then the final sale, though, this is the highest sale price that I could find. That is the Jurassic Park set. Of course, Jurassic Park became the highest grossing movie of all time during this period. And it included 54 cards in the set. 6 of them were holographic. And then there was also a slammer. So the entire set of 54 cards plus the slammer sold for $1,500. And right now on eBay, there is one up for sale for $20,000.
Ooh.
What I get out of this is that whoever bought the top became a historical NFT collector and has just been waiting for decades to pawn these things off and sell them again. So they have a floor price and they're not going below it at all.
Well, I wonder how you get your pogs graded. Is there like a grading system to like, you know, do you send it off to Tops or whatever to get your pogs graded? It's interesting, man. Thanks, Ethord. Appreciate that.
Thanks, dude. That was an interesting one. That they sent me back a little bit. I was not a Pez collector, which is what you discussed last week, but I definitely was a Pog collector. So excited to see what other things we introduce. But there is so many different similarities and parallels to it. Of course, scarcity is probably the primary one. Starting to see this, and this is very similar with Rare Pepes too, of just the like the collaborative cards where it brings in culture from like another community, as you mentioned with like Jurassic Park and Pikachu being some of the top ones. It's very similar with even Pepkachu, which is like the Pikachu Pepe is like one of the most valuable cards. So it's just like appropriating culture from different communities and bringing them over. Got to adopt that somewhere.
I mean, I think we've seen it too, just even with brands, right? Brands, even though, I don't know, Porsche did really poorly, but, you know, recently, but, you know, Nike and Adidas and this importation of culture into the NFT space is certainly, from a collectability standpoint, this is what we see with Pogs. It's the same thing, right? And even we saw it, you know, the week before with Pez and, you know, the Mickey Mouse ones or the Disney ones, right? That kind of cross culture pull in. If the supply and stuff is not crazy, can be interesting, but usually what Disney wants to do or what, you know, Porsche wants to do is be stupid with the supply and kind of kill that collectability aspect.
Yeah, Porsche actually had to cut the supply. I think they cut it off at like 2,000 and something instead of the 9,000 that they wanted to do. And
and when they did that, what happened? The price shot right up. Right. It suddenly became, ooh, these are going to be scarce. And so, yeah, it creates the, you know, a more interesting value proposition.
Give me a Porsche, baby. Go ahead, Mafika. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say as well, you know, we're talking about these kind of cross collaborations. Definitely something I look out for, looking out for more and more. These intersections between communities. If you can have an NFT that has subject matter that is relevant to really well known or large community or hobby groups, I think it's a powerful thing. You have then, you know, marketing, or you have advocates, a larger pool of people to advocate for that NFT. And then when you then, you know, people with derivatives and memes starting to get really creative around how they reproduce that kind of content, it becomes very exciting. And certainly a unique thing with NFTs, and that how composable they are, right? How you can have, we've seen this with the memes lately, how you can, once the community gets its hands on something and they're really passionate and interested in it, how it then they repurpose it, recombine it, recreate, and it manifests in different ways. it's a really interesting thing, and particularly, for historicals, Pepe's if probably the most significant collection when it comes to these kind of intersections across the collection. So many different interesting things, from movies to sports to celebrities. It's a fascinating collection for those kind of intersections.
Yeah, I mean, even Spells of Genesis, right? Satoshi card is one of the most valuable because it was an interoperable card that was played in another game, and that's why Saratopia is valuable, because it's like an interoperable metaverse. I've actually been, this is probably the third time now that I'm about to talk about this topic of collaborative NFTs. I've gone on like a handful of shows this week talking about. I'm just astounded that the ETH NFT community has not got into this that hard. Like, just the simple idea of taking two artists and collabing on an art and then selling as a one of one or an open edition or something like that. To me, that just seems like one of the next plays, and it's something that I'm actively pursuing with a project that I hope to do and kind of build off that fake Mirage stuff. But just collaboration, it's proven. It happens in every tech sector. It happens in content creation, and it's a compounding effect. The example I tend to use a lot is when you get two content creators on the same screen together, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's usually 1 + 1 = 3, because you get the network effect of each person, but then you also get the network effect of the algorithm as well. That becomes compounding. So wherever that goes in the NFT space, I think whoever can solve that, or the groups of people who can play that well and create a system out of it, is going to become very wealthy from it and very successful. So
we'll see. No hints though on what you're doing though, man. You got to tease
dude,
that
I'm
out.
still, I mean, I have just as little alpha. I mean, I have about 15 calls scheduled next week. So I'm definitely exploring a bunch of different options from it. There's definitely some hurdles I've noticed when you approach different individuals about doing collaborative NFTs. A lot of people are very first, they're very skeptical of it because they think it's a scam, right? Even if you're a proven person and you've known these people for a long time, anything associated with like collaboration in crypto, people tend to be very weary of. So you have to, I've noticed the text conversation doesn't do well. So now I'm just kind of resorting to just like phone calls and conversation to get people on the screen to kind of like explain. But then it's also like the appropriation of art, right? Are you doing this for my art? Are you doing this as a collaboration? What's the incentives? There's so many different variables that you have to introduce to these collaborative NFTs. I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles of why not many people have tried to take on some sort of endeavor doing that.
Yep. And I think it's, being the first is very scary for people, right? People are happy to do memes now because it's been proven right? Mm-hmm. And everybody you see, it's just this, I don't know how we started this show. It's like once you see one, people are using 1155s, then it's just this. So, but being brave and being first, you can see that you are rewarded heavily if it works. Seen that with 6529 in their collection. If you get it right, you can be a big winner.
Big winner, right? It just goes back to the old military tactics. You don't want to be first through the door. You don't want to be on the front line. The odds are not stacked within your favor.
If you're not first, you're last, baby. If you're not first, you're last.
Well, I guess we should probably close this up. Do this. No technical difficulties. The show has improved 4,000%. So I think now that we got everything kind of figured out, we have the good roles. If anybody else is interested in having a segment on the show or want to partake or learn more, reach out to Adam, myself, Emblem Vault, or any of the speakers on the stage. Appreciate you guys. Mafika, Leonidas, Ethor, Dogfather. We're making strides here. I've seen more jabber on Twitter about collecting than ever before. So I don't know if it's the memes or the history or just there's more content out there, but something's working. I don't know what it is, but we're doing it right. Adam, any final words or any of the guests or speakers on stage? Any closing remarks?
Dude, we are making a dent in the universe of Bitcoiners and the general world. We are making a dent. It's teeny tiny right now. Keep that in mind. So, I mean, seeing this stuff happen and we're making progress, but it's still, it's still teeny, man. And the good work of people making awesome tweet threads like guys have been doing over the last couple of weeks and stuff. It's compounding, and it compounds at an exponential rate. And it's like slowly at first and then suddenly. And when the sudden hits, it's going to be amazing. So keep working, guys.
Shane also just said in the comments of the live stream, I just bought my first few NFTs and Mooncat 9571. So congratulations to you, Shane. You are now officially one of us. So what else you got to say? I was anti-NFT before I started following you guys. Oh, that's awesome, man. Thank you, Shane, for joining the party. Really cool. Any of the speakers on stage, any final words before we close up?
I mean, at risk of making this continue going longer, you guys know me. I have a question I wanted to ask. Are ordinals ever coming to Ethereum on Emblem bot?
Bro, what do you think I was trying to get that Bitcoin Core up and running for, man? I was like, this is what's happening, bro.
We did discuss it. I do want to say that it was something that was discussed in the last team meeting. Got to make sure that we get this curated collections things first going, but it is not impossible. More infrastructure just needs to be set in place on the ordinal side before that can happen. But it's definitely possible.
The issue, Leo, is that for right now, he's going to get the tech right. But for right now, if the ordinal was sent into an Emblem vault, it's possible that when you went to send it or take it out of the Emblem vault and, return it and send it somewhere else, that you could actually lose the ordinal you wanted to keep hold of, right? It could get lost in the gas process. Not the sending into the Emblem vault, but when it came time to take it out and transfer it again. So that's the issue. It might be a while to get that figured out, but you could certainly put it in there and it just sit there forever in the Emblem vault. But the ability to move it afterwards, Casey doesn't have that totally figured out yet.
Gotcha. Thanks, guys.
Almost there. Well, appreciate everyone for doing this. We'll see you next Friday at 9 a.m. PST, noon EST. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Third.